Hello, everyone. This is Fabian, the PM for GitLab Geo. And in the next 10 minutes or so, I'll give you the state of play of what we're going to do in Geo for 12.5 and also review a few things that we did in 12.4. So let me share my screen. All right, super. Can you see my screen? Yes, great. All right, so I usually go through the high-level things that we are attempting to do. So these are our currently active epics, and I will talk through some of them in more detail than others, but I'll also highlight a few of the core issues that are relevant to those. I'll start at the top, and then I'll work my way through. So the first thing is, and I already highlighted that last time for 12.4, we are investing significantly more energy in Geo to actually enable Geo as a disaster recovery solution in .com. So I'll actually have a second roadmap for this to give you a little bit more detail on what we're doing here. And so I think the first important thing to highlight is that adding unreplicated data types always important for DR. Just because it's not replicated, you can't recover. So that's ongoing. But more interestingly, at this moment, we are working on rolling out Geo to staging.gitlab.com and then also defining the specific Geo architecture on gitlab.com. So when this goes to production, so the Geo architecture is essentially figuring out how exactly we are going to deploy it, organizing some work with infrastructure, and also creating a server architecture diagram for staging.com. So this is something that we're going to do in 12.5 as sort of a prelude to actually deploying it. Also, we are rolling it out. So there's a lot of more technical issues in here that are relevant, but what we're trying to accomplish is automating as much as possible and working very closely with the infrastructure team to accommodate that. So this is just a high-level overview, and once that is done, we are going to actually we are starting to roll this out at dr.gitlab.com. Please note, these are high-level estimates. We're just starting this work. It is possible that we'll hit roadblocks because of the scaling, which is exactly why we're trying to do this. This is sort of rough order of magnitude. It could take significantly longer. I'll keep you posted, but this is the state that we have at the moment. And this is one of the highest priorities in Geo at the moment, just because it will resolve a lot of issues that we have where scaling is difficult and having it on .com is the way to go. So let me quickly close those. Then verifying all replicated data. I've spoken about that a few times. I think everybody in the team agrees that if you replicate something, we should also verify it. However, we are kind of taking a step back from some of the initially planned work. I spoke about verifying uploads last time. And while looking at verification for uploads, but also verification for design repositories, we realized that verifying data at the moment is actually a lot harder than we would like it to be. So rather than finding sort of localized solutions, we are now actually thinking about a, let's say, potentially more framework-like approach. The team is thinking about solutions here. And from a product perspective, it should be very easy to add new things to Geo, and it should also be easy to verify them. So we'll spend some time in 12.5, as I said, taking a step back and then actually looking at, for example, a sort of single verification framework, how we can actually make sure that verification is simple and straightforward. So you'll probably hear me talk about this a little bit in more detail after 12.5, based on the outcomes when we are thinking about productizing this. But at the moment, it's a little bit more discovery. And I believe this is valuable because ultimately, one of the challenges we're facing in Geo is that we are one team and there's a lot of new data being added to GitLab all the time that we would like to replicate. And so if that's hard, we're always going to lag behind. And so one of the challenges that we have is deciding how we can make it really easy to add new data, and maybe at some point also have a more self-service oriented framework. But that's in the future, and the team has some work to do to come up with some sort of proofs of concepts and sort of initial discovery. Then the improving of the upgrade documentation. So this is almost done. And actually we are releasing quite a bit of work in here. You can see we spent a significant amount of time working on improving the upgrade documentation. And I think this is really valuable to our customers who we encourage to upgrade very regularly. The most important outstanding issue for 12.5 that I would like to highlight here is the documentation for Geo HA upgrades. So we are working on creating a step-by-step instruction for upgrading Geo nodes in an HA configuration. And so we have an MR at the moment already with a lot of that information included. However, this needs more testing. It needs to be robust. We need to be very certain that this works. And so this is the one of the main deliverables outstanding for 12.5. Then here, Geo supports a single geolocation-aware Git URL. This is going to be very likely released in 12.4. So we are closing this off, which is great. Similar here to improved object storage support. So with 12.4, we are releasing a beta feature that allows replication of data in object storage through Geo itself. So rather than relying on the replication features of the third-party object storage providers, this allows customers to actually replicate natively with Geo. So that opens up possibilities of sort of a multi-cloud deployment where you use one provider in one location and another provider in a different location, or use local storage. And I'm quite excited to see this being closed off at this stage. The main reason for this being beta is that we have to test it at scale yet, but I think it's a really nice thing. And Gabriel happens to be on the call, so a big shout out to him who worked on this. So super excited to see this. Then here, support for design repositories. This is something that's also important to highlight, where we had initially scheduled this for delivery in 12.4, but one of the issues here that is taking a little bit longer is the verification, which I explained already is one of the reasons why we're taking a step back. But also we have to handle design uploads in the admin area for Geo uploads, so there's a little bit of front-end work, which Zach, who's also on the call, is going to tackle in 12.5. So this will take a little bit longer, but we want to ship this as one feature. And as you see, lots of small issues were already implemented, but we'd rather get this done fully. I also realized that I skipped this, more robust foreign data table updates. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I can show you the epic. So essentially, this is part of making upgrades easier and simpler. We had quite a few small issues with upgrading foreign data wrapper tables. And this is just a collection of small improvements to the UI, to the UX, and fixing some bugs. So we will probably finish this in 12.5, and then we're going to release it in one go. Finally, and this is going to start this month, and I'm really excited about this because it works well with enabling Geo for disaster recovery on GitLab.com. So we're going to start product discovery efforts on promotion, demotion, and failover. So these are all interesting topics to do with disaster recovery. So similar to simplifying upgrades, what we're going to do here is actually looking at the processes that we have right now, the documentation that we have, revisiting them, and working through sort of an initial phase of, what are potential improvements, what can we do, adding DR demos, and then coming to a state where we know exactly how we can iterate and what the next steps are. So in 12.5, you will probably not see a lot of feature implementation yet, but this is really important to many of our customers, and I'm excited to then, once we have a better overview of that area, actually move into implementation, both probably on the user interface side at some point, and also in the backend, making improvements there. We also have a product designer who is going to join in November, which is very exciting. And so later on this year, we're going to revisit the administrator panel and like focus on making some improvements to the UI and UX there. So this is something to stay tuned. In comparison to the last time I spoke to you, where the promotion, demotion, and failover and the Geo should be simple to install were sort of happening in parallel, given the amount of work in enabling Geo on .com and all the other things that we are doing at the moment, we are delaying this a little bit more. That also makes sense because it's a thing that is larger than Geo itself. So there is other work going on potential provisioning. GitLab in HA applications is a little bit easier, and Geo falls into that. So there may be some movement, but before we fully focus on this, I think there will be a little bit of time spent doing those other things. And that is pretty much it. So if I had to summarize it, I'm really happy that quite a significant amount of work is already sort of coming to an end in 12.4. That was a little bit delayed earlier. So this is nice, and that frees us up to start some new things and also double down on some of the existing efforts. And as you can probably also tell, there's quite a bit of discovery work. So if you have any questions or you want to know more about this or participate, please feel free to reach out. And that's the Geo for 12.5. So thanks for listening and have a good day. And now I need to stop recording. 1 second. One second.